In this video, I'm going to show you how to hold the violin properly as a complete beginner, why it's so difficult, and steps you can take to improve your posture and how you hold the violin. I'm Sergey Panov of Violin Explained, a lifelong educator of bowed string instruments. Make sure to subscribe, like, and follow to learn with me. Let's go over the steps of how to properly hold the violin, why it's so difficult, and the things you can do while you play to make sure it stays in the right place so that you have proper intonation and make a beautiful sound with the bow. Step 1. With the right hand, you're going to find the places where the violin goes. The first place where the violin goes is on the collarbone. So this part here of the violin, right here, is going to go on the collarbone itself. This here that you see is a shoulder rest. An easy way to make sure you have the shoulder rest on properly is if you look at it, it always has to make a smile. If your shoulder rest is on like so, and it's making a frown, then that is incorrect. The shoulder rest should always be making a smile if you look at the violin the way that you'll be playing. Before we talk about how to hold the violin properly, let's discuss some of the parts of the violin. If you want to learn in detail what each part is and what it does, I made a separate video about all the parts of violin, but here we're going to simply just go through the different parts so that we know which parts we are talking about. This is the scroll, these are the pegs, this is the peg box, this is the neck of the violin, the fingerboard, the strings, this is the body of the violin, this is the bridge, this is the fingerboard, these are the F-holes, this is where the sound comes out. This is the chin rest, we'll put a chin on it. This is the tailpiece, this is what holds the strings at the bottom of the violin. These are the fine tuners that help us adjust the violin's pitch. This is the end button that helps to support the tailpiece and all the strings. And this is a shoulder rest. An easy way to make sure that the shoulder rest is on correctly, if you look at the violin like this, the shoulder rest should always be making a smile, never a frown. Now that we know what all the parts of the violin are, we're going to locate the bottom of the violin on our left collarbone. The first step is to make sure that the violin goes on the left collarbone, not in front of us, on the left collarbone, and we're going to look left. We're going to make sure that the shoulder rest goes on the shoulder, and we're going to look left. The steps of holding the violin properly are pretty easy, but holding it there is the hard part. Step 1 is we need to make sure we understand that the violin does not go in front of us, but it actually goes over the left shoulder and on the left side of the body, and we're going to look left. So the first step is, if you wave your right hand, you find your left collarbone. That's where the violin goes. You can tap your shoulder, that's where the shoulder rest goes, and then you need to look left. So we're going to follow the steps. We're going to take the violin, place it on the left collarbone, and we're going to feel the shoulder rest resting on the shoulder. If you look right here, right, the shoulder rest is over the shoulder. And what that does is supports the violin so that our hands can be nice and free and relaxed to either press the strings or move the bow. The first step is to find on our body where the violin goes. If you take your right hand and find your left collarbone, that's where the bottom of the violin is going to rest. Then if you tap your left shoulder, the shoulder rest needs to rest on the shoulder, and most importantly, your head needs to look left and lean slightly on the violin. So if we follow the steps, we're going to hold the violin with our left hand like so. We can help the bottom of the violin with our right hand. We're going to take it and place it so we feel the bottom of the violin on the collarbone, the left collarbone. Then I can lower the violin. I can feel the shoulder rest on my shoulder. And I'm going to look left, placing my chin on the chin rest and slightly lean the violin to the left. Here's how the proper violin position looks like from all angles. Now, you're probably thinking, Sergey, that wasn't so hard, and you're absolutely right. Now, the hard part is when you play the violin to keep it in its proper place. You've probably seen students playing like this, and you're probably thinking, that just doesn't look right. Now, the reason why this isn't right, that the violin must be on the left shoulder and the left collarbone, is the following. If I place the violin straight in front of me, you'll notice when I'm playing, my elbows are all the way on my stomach. That does not allow me to properly play the violin. So the reason we put the violin on the left collarbone and shoulder and the left is to have freedom of hand motions. Your violin left hand is eventually going to have to go up here, play high notes, and your bow needs to be able to do this where the elbow is free to move. And if the violin is simply straight in front of you, your hands are stuck and you simply just can't play properly and you'll never make a beautiful sound. Now, you know what most beginners do, but the most interesting part is why this happens, and this applies to all of us. So if the holding a violin properly doesn't seem to be that hard, and we know what it shouldn't look like, the most interesting part is that why it is so difficult to keep the violin in its proper place while we play. Now, the answer is really simple and easy, and it has to do with what do we do most of the day. If you think about your everyday activities, our head looks straight ahead because we're watching where we're going and what we're doing, and our hands are also in front of us. If we're typing, we're writing, or we're watching TV, or we're watching any device, our hands will always be in front of us. Whereas when you play the violin, your hands are over to your left side. So the fact that our hands are not what we're used to for the majority of our lives is what makes the violin so difficult to play and learn. But there's a few strategies you can use to make sure that you play with a proper position that will allow you to make a beautiful and accurate sound. The first strategy I would encourage you to use is make sure to look left and right past what we normally do. The tricky part here is that although everyone always looks left and right, for example, when we cross the street, we don't keep our head to the left for prolonged periods of time. So the first exercise you can do is to just look left and stay there. You'll notice that after a while, this starts to feel really weird, which is why it's so difficult to keep proper posture and violin position when you play the violin. Our head and our hands wants to go back to where they're comfortable, which is straight ahead, and this is what the result is. Exercise or warm-up number 2. Get used to your left hand positions without the violin. You can raise your left hand and basically turn your elbow towards the front like this, and you can look left. As weird as this looks, this is actually where the violin is and your left hand is when you play the violin. If you practice holding your left hand and your head in the proper violin position and keep it there, that will get your muscles used to the proper positions and make it a lot easier to keep them there when you play. The third thing that you can do is to constantly remind your hands to do what's proper and not what's easy. There are no bad habits in violin, there are only easy habits. Remember that our hands, our body, and our fingers will always do what's easy and not what's proper. And it is our job to make sure that our hands, our fingers, and motions are where they need to be to make beautiful sound and not whatever's easy for them. So now that you know what the proper steps of holding the violin is, where it should be, and why it is so difficult, let's practice one last time. You're going to look left. You're going to hold the violin with your left hand on the right side of the violin. You're going to support the violin with your right hand. You're going to place the violin on the left collarbone. You're going to lower the violin until you can feel the shoulder rest on the shoulder. You're going to lean your head, look left, and lean on the violin. And if you're holding the violin properly, you should be able to hold it without your hands. And turn, as well as walk around. The reason that the chin rest and the shoulder rest were invented is to help us hold the violin properly without any excessive tension. I hope you found this video helpful. If you are learning how to play the violin, let me know in the comments what you'd like me to cover next, and thank you for watching.